Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel for Vintage Audiophile. This is my sixth such video, and today we're going to be reviewing a brand that a lot of people probably have never even heard of, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a good brand. It just kind of flew under the radar because there was so much different stuff out there back in the day. We're talking mid-80s, which was kind of the end of this particular brand as we know it. The name of the brand is called MCS, and it is the Digital 5000 series that I'm reviewing today. MCS was a brand that was exclusively distributed through JCPenney. It was their house brand. I know that might sound kind of weird, but they had a lot of stuff outsourced. They didn't produce their own equipment, they just slapped their name on it. A lot of the stuff, especially the stuff that people really go for, was made by NEC from Japan, but also Techniques is rumored to have made some of their stuff, as well as Pioneer. I'm not sure exactly who made this one particular series, but it is nonetheless pretty amazing as far as quality goes. They were kind of expensive systems at the time. JCPenney, I guess, figured they could charge whatever they wanted to charge, but in the long run they had to discontinue carrying their home brand because there was just so much competition out there that they just kind of flew under the radar. And those people who know what MCS is knows what kind of quality I'm speaking of. One easy way to figure out how many wattage there was in any of the MCS tuners, or pardon me, the receivers or amplifiers, was the last two numbers of the number of the receiver. This one being an MCS 3873. The last two numbers are what they used to kind of covertly boast what their rated wattage was per channel. The biggest one they ever made was the 3125, maybe about 5 years earlier. That is highly coveted by collectors, and as the name probably, or the number probably suggests, it was 125 watts per channel. That's what they called it, but they were always really conservative with their numbers. And I have one of those receivers, which I'll be reviewing at a later time, and I personally had it checked out by a technician, and he was getting 150 watts a channel before it started peaking and breaking up. But that was the way they were with a lot of their stuff. It was more of just a reference for people. Some people took it literally, but those who've put their stuff on test equipment know that that was usually a conservative number for just about everything they made. Anyways, this particular series, like I say, was one of the last series that they put out before they stopped making them. And what we have here is a 3050 quartz tuner digital. It does have a really good reception on it. I can get some stations on here I can't get with any other of my tuners. And the one thing about it that is kind of quirky by today's standards, but and not many receivers, even at the time that this was rolled out in the mid-80s, was a concept that of AM stereo. There were some channels that were switched over and were broadcasted in AM stereo, but it's kind of one of those things like with HD radio. It was out there, but not a lot of people adopted it because they didn't want to spring for extra equipment. So it kind of eventually faded out, and There is one channel that I have in my area at night that comes in an AM stereo still. I don't even know where the station's from, but it's a weak signal. But it does give you a fairly decent AM sound to it with stereo 2-channel effect. And so this particular tuner had that feature, and I don't think that any of their other tuners that they ever made had that particular feature. But this one has it, and it also has some of this stuff like FM mute. You can switch the stereo on and off, both on FM or AM, to turn it into a mono signal. It also has auto scan, preset scan. Of course, you can program up to 16 channels with this particular model. And working its way down, the next one we have is a 3042 Graphic Equalizer. As you can see, the second one down, it is pretty much your standard equalizer. It is a 10 or 8 band, or excuse me, 7 band. I gotta get my math right here. You can either defeat or turn on the equalizer. You can record off the equalizer with equalizer settings, or you can also put the tape monitor on so that you can listen to your tape, which you can probably see right now is playing down below. The third one down is the amplifier, and that is a really, really nice amplifier. It has really good clean sound. As you can see, it's got a lot of different buttons on its display. You have buttons that you can push that'll turn on loudness or tone defeat or subsonic filter, which is what you use mostly when you're playing phonograph turntable records, because it'll help filter out some of the really low sub frequencies that can tend to show up in the speakers that you're doing. And of course you've got your standard buttons for tuner, phono, the audio video. This is when audio video was just starting its infancy of being something that people wanted, but is by no means a surround sound stereo. It's just a standard 2-channel CD player, which I do not have for this series. Maybe someday if I'm lucky. And then of course your tape, and you can see that the tape right now is lit up because I'm playing through the equalizer, so that I can take advantage of that. It also, like I say, it sounds great. You can hook up 2 pairs of speakers with it. Has your standard headphone jack on it, the old-fashioned 1/4-inch headphone jack. Going down to the cassette player, it's a dual cassette player. Record one side, playback on the other side. It has normal speed and high speed dubbing. Of course, your standard Dolby on off, and you can also push some buttons to for your tape formulation, whether it be normal chromium dioxide or metal tape. Separate left and right record buttons, or actually they're turning knobs. 2 1/4-inch jacks so that you can stick in external mics, which by this time was kind of fallen out of fashion in a lot of tape recorders, especially as you got even further into 90s, didn't even have anymore because people just weren't really doing that kind of thing anymore. And it's pretty much your standard tape player, but it does play and sound really good. It's got the old-fashioned push button reset for the analog tape indicator as far as your elapsed time, and that's about all I can say about this unit, except that if you're lucky enough to come by a set like this, you won't regret it. I got it hooked up to a pair of JBL bookshelf speakers, which are kind of my go-to speakers because they always sound really great and they always hit pretty deep in the bass. When I turn on the equalizer on this particular unit, the bass really kicks in, more than I've probably heard from any other system that I've ever had these speakers hooked up to. It sound, for those people who like a lot of bass, you'll get a lot of bass with these, especially if you have them hooked up to these particular pair of JBL speakers, which are the E30 speakers. And other than that, I don't know if there's anything else I can really tell you about the system, except like I say, if you're lucky enough to find one, don't hesitate to spring for it. You probably won't have to pay too much for it because, like I say, MCS still flies under the radar a little bit because a lot of people haven't heard of it. A lot of people didn't even know that it existed. But you won't regret it. And if you like this particular video that I just reviewed for you, please like it, and also please subscribe to my channel. That way you can be guaranteed to be among the first people to get notified when a new video of mine comes out. And I promise I'll be putting more videos out in the near future on a pretty regular basis. And the longer this goes, the better and better the stuff is going to get. Better and better hopefully I get as a reviewer. And let's go on the same ride together. Until next time, thank you for watching my video, and God bless.